Sir, you need to move to the back of the plane. Now! Captain Tom Miller's voice was loud and angry. The whole plane went quiet. Everyone turned to look at the man in seat 1A. David Johnson sat perfectly still. He was wearing an expensive black suit and a gold watch. He looked calm, but his eyes were cold. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "You heard me," Tom said, his face getting red. "This is first class. Your ticket says economy. Move." David pulled out his phone and started recording. "Actually, my ticket says seat 1A, first class. Would you like to see it?" The flight attendant, Sarah, whispered to Tom, "Captain, I told you, he doesn't belong here. Look at him. Does he look like he can afford first class?" A teenage girl in seat 3C held up her phone. She was live streaming on TikTok. "Oh my God, you guys, this is crazy. The pilot is trying to kick this man out of first class." Her viewer count jumped from 50 to 500 in seconds. David handed his boarding pass to Tom. "Flight 447 to Miami, seat 1A, first class, paid in full this morning at 7:30 a.m. Tom looked at the ticket. Everything looked real. But Sarah had never been wrong before. She worked for the airline for 12 years. She knew when something was off. "The ticket looks fake," Tom said. "Where did you buy it? Some website? Craigslist?" David's smile was cold. "I bought it from your airline's website with my credit card. Would you like to see the receipt?" "Receipts can be faked," Sarah said quickly. "Sir, we have other passengers waiting. Please just move to economy. We'll sort this out later." The businessman in seat 2A looked annoyed. "Captain, I have a meeting in Miami. Can we please take off? Just move him." More passengers pulled out their phones. The teenager's TikTok stream now had 2,000 viewers. Comments were flying. "This is so wrong. Sue them. I can't believe this is happening. Record everything." David looked at his expensive watch. "Captain Miller, can I ask you something? In your 15 years of flying, how many white passengers have you asked to move from first class?" Tom's face went even redder. "That's not what this is about. Your ticket doesn't match our records." "What records?" David asked calmly. "You haven't checked any computer. You haven't called anyone. You just decided I don't belong here." Sarah stepped forward. "Sir, please don't make this harder. Security is on the way." David's phone buzzed. A text message. He glanced at it and smiled. "Actually, I think you should be the one worried about security." "Are you threatening me?" Tom asked, his voice getting louder. "No," David said quietly. "I'm just wondering what your boss will think when he sees this video." The teenager's live stream hit 5,000 viewers. Her phone was getting hot from all the activity. Local news stations started messaging her asking for the video. "Ladies and gentlemen," the gate agent announced over the intercom, "we're ready for takeoff. Flight attendants, prepare for departure." But nobody was preparing for anything. The whole plane was watching the fight in first class. Tom made his decision. "Security! I need security on this plane now." David leaned back in his seat. "You know what, Captain Miller? I think that's a great idea. Let's get security involved." 2. Security guards walked onto the plane. Big men with serious faces, John and Mike. They'd done this before. "What's the problem?" John asked. Sarah pointed at David. "This passenger is in the wrong seat. He's being difficult. He won't move." John looked at David, then at Tom. "Sir, do you have a boarding pass?" David handed it over. John looked at it carefully. "This looks real to me. What's the issue?" "The issue," Tom said, "is that people like him don't usually fly first class. It's probably stolen or fake." The words hung in the air like poison. Everyone heard it. Everyone understood what he meant. David's smile got wider. "People like me, Captain." "Miller?" Tom realized what he'd just said, but he was in too deep to back down now. I mean, people who, you know, no, I don't know, David said. Why don't you explain it to everyone? The teenager's stream now had 15,000 viewers. News alerts were popping up on social media. Racist pilots started trending. Mike, the second security guard, looked uncomfortable. Sir, if his ticket is real. It's not real, Tom insisted. Use your eyes. Does he look like he belongs in first class? That's when David made his move. He reached into his jacket pocket. Everyone tensed up. Tom stepped back, thinking David might have a weapon. But David only pulled out a wallet. Expensive leather. He opened it slowly. Inside was a black credit card. The kind most people had never seen. The American Express Centurion card. Only the richest people in the world had them. John whistled softly. Sir, that's a very exclusive card. Yes, David said calmly. It requires $10,000 just to apply, plus you have to spend $250,000 every year to keep it. Tom's confidence started to crack. That could be fake too. David pulled out another card, his driver's license, then another card, his pilot's license, then another, his airline employee ID. John read the employee ID out loud. David Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Atlantic Airways. The plane went dead silent. Sarah's face went white. Tom started shaking. CEO. Not just any CEO. The CEO of Atlantic Airways, the biggest airline in the country. Oh no, Tom whispered. Oh no, oh no, oh no. David stood up slowly. Now, Captain Miller, would you like to tell me again why I don't belong in first class? The silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. 147 passengers stared at David Johnson, CEO of Atlantic Airways, the man they'd just watched get humiliated by their pilot. Tom Miller felt like he was going to throw up. 15 years of flying, and he'd just discriminated against the most powerful man in aviation. Sir, Tom's voice cracked like a teenager's. We had no way of knowing. No way of knowing what? David asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes were like ice. That a black man in an expensive suit might actually belong in first class. Sarah, the flight attendant, started crying. Quiet tears at first, then harder. She knew her career was over. The teenager's TikTok stream exploded. 50,000 viewers and climbing. The comments were going crazy. CEO, oh my God! They're so fired! This is the best thing ever! Save this video! David pulled out his phone and made a call. Everyone in first class could hear every word. Hello, Patricia. It's David. Yes, I'm fine, but I need you to see something. He turned his phone around, showing the camera to Tom and Sarah. Patricia, meet Captain Tom Miller and flight attendant, Sarah White. They just spent 20 minutes trying to remove me from my seat because they thought I didn't belong in first class. A woman's voice came through the phone speaker, loud enough for everyone to hear. They did what? You heard right. Captain Miller said people like me don't usually fly first class. He thought my ticket was fake. He called security to have me arrested. The woman on the phone was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke again, and her voice was like thunder. Captain Miller, this is Patricia Davis, head of operations for Atlantic Airways. You just discriminated against our CEO on live camera in front of 50,000 people. Do you understand what you've done? Tom tried to speak, but no words came out. His mouth moved like a fish out of water. Ma'am? Sarah finally found her voice. We had no identification. We followed protocol. Protocol? Patricia's voice got louder. What protocol says to remove passengers based on their skin color? David held up his hand. Patricia, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I want to hear their explanation. He looked at Tom. Captain Miller, you have 15 years of experience. You've seen thousands of passengers. Tell me honestly, would you have questioned a white man in an expensive suit sitting in first class? Tom's silence was his answer. Would you have demanded to see a white passenger's ID? More silence. Would you have called security on a white passenger who was sitting quietly in his paid seat? Tom finally spoke. Sir, I made a mistake. What kind of mistake? David asked. A small mistake? An honest mistake? Or the kind of mistake that destroys lives? The businessman in 2A couldn't stay quiet anymore. Look, we all make assumptions. Sometimes. Can't we just forget about this and fly to Miami? David turned to look at him. Sir, what's your name? Robert Chen. Well, Mr. Chen, how would you feel if someone assumed you were a terrorist because you're Asian? How would you feel if security dragged you off a plane while people recorded it? Robert went quiet. David's phone buzzed with notifications. Text. After text after text. Gentlemen, it seems the news has picked up this story. Fox News wants an interview. CNN is calling. The New York Times is writing an article. He showed his phone screen to Tom and Sarah. The TikTok video had been shared 10,000 times in the past 5 minutes. This isn't going away, David said. This is national news now. Tom fell into a passenger seat. Sir, please, I have a family, 2 kids in college. I'll lose everything. Mr. Miller, did you think about my family when you tried to have me arrested? Did you think about my reputation? My dignity? Sarah wiped her eyes. Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I was just trying to do my job. Your job is to make passengers feel safe and comfortable. How did humiliating me accomplish that? David's phone rang. He answered it on speaker. David, this is Tom Wilson from Channel 7 News. We're going live with this story in 10 minutes. Would you like to comment? Tell them I'll hold a press conference when we land in Miami. Sir, our sources say you're considering legal action against the crew. Is that true? David looked at Tom and Sarah. Both of them looked terrified. That depends on whether they want to make this right or make it worse. He hung up and called Patricia back. Patricia, I need you to pull up Tom Miller's record. How many passengers has he removed from first class in the past year? They could hear typing through the phone. Let's see, 23 passengers removed from premium cabins. 19 were people of color. 4 were white. The numbers hit like a bomb. Tom hadn't just made one mistake. This was a pattern. Captain Miller, David said quietly, you've been discriminating against passengers for years, haven't you? Tom couldn't deny it. The statistics didn't lie. Sarah White's record shows similar patterns. Patricia continued. 37 passenger complaints in the past 2 years. 31 involve passengers of color. Sarah started sobbing harder. David stood up and addressed the whole plane. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing is not unusual. This happens every day. Black passengers get questioned. Brown passengers get searched. Asian passengers get stared at. Most of the time, nobody records it. Nobody speaks up. The discrimination stays hidden. He paused, letting that sink in. But today is different. Today, you all saw it happen. Today, you're all witnesses. The teenage girl raised her hand. Mr. Johnson, my stream has 75,000 viewers now. People are really angry about this. What's your name, young lady? Emma. Emma Rodriguez. Well, Emma, you just documented something very important. You showed the world how discrimination really works. Thank you. David's phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from someone very important. Hello, Governor Martinez's office? Yes, I'll hold. Mr. Johnson, this is Governor Martinez. I've been watching the live stream. We need to talk. David put the phone on speaker again. The governor of Florida was calling him personally. Governor, I appreciate you reaching out. Mr. Johnson, this incident reflects badly on our state. We pride ourselves on equality and fairness. I want you to know that we're taking this very seriously." Tom Miller looked like he was going to pass out. The governor was involved now. This was bigger than losing his job. This could destroy his entire life. "Governor, I appreciate your concern, but I want to focus on making sure this never happens again. What do you propose?" David looked around the cabin. Every passenger was listening. Emma's live stream now had 100,000 viewers. "I propose we use this as a teaching moment. Captain Miller and Ms. White are going to help us train every airline employee in America about unconscious bias." Tom looked up, confused. "Sir?" "You heard me, Captain. You're going to spend the next year traveling to airports around the country. You're going to tell your story. You're going to explain how good people can do terrible things without realizing it." "You mean you're not firing us?" Sarah asked through her tears. "That depends. Are you willing to take responsibility? Are you willing to change? Are you willing to help fix this problem?" The governor spoke up. "Mr. Johnson, that's very generous of you." "Governor, destroying their lives won't solve anything, but educating people might." David's phone buzzed with a text from his legal team. "Sir, we could sue for millions. This is a clear-cut discrimination case." He showed the text to Tom and Sarah. "My lawyers think I should sue you both personally. They think I could win millions of dollars." Both crew members went pale. "But I'm not interested in destroying you. I'm interested in changing the system." Patricia's voice came through the phone speaker. "David, the board of directors is calling an emergency meeting. They want immediate action. Tell them I'll be there tomorrow, and tell them we're implementing the Miller-White Protocol." "The what?" Tom asked. "The Miller-White Protocol, a new training system named after both of you. Every airline employee will learn about unconscious bias using your story as the main example." Emma raised her hand again. "Mr. Johnson, people in my chat are asking, will this really change anything? Or will everyone just forget about it in a week?" David smiled at her. Smart question from a smart young woman. "Emma, that's up to everyone watching. Change doesn't happen because CEOs make announcements. Change happens because ordinary people demand it." He looked directly into her camera. "If you're watching this stream, I want you to do something. Next time you see discrimination in a store, on a plane, anywhere, don't just watch. Don't just walk away. Record it, share it, speak up, be like Emma." The chat exploded with responses. "I will. Never staying quiet again. This is inspiring. Change starts with us." David's phone rang again. This time it was the CEO of United Airlines. "David, it's Mike from United. I just saw the video. We need to talk about industry-wide changes." Then American Airlines called. Then Delta. Then Southwest. Every major airline in America wanted to meet with David. They all realized that what happened to him could happen on their planes too. "Gentlemen," David said into the phone, "I think we need an emergency meeting of all airline CEOs tomorrow in Miami." Tom found his voice. "Sir, you're really going to change the entire industry because of what we did?" "Captain Miller, you gave me an opportunity. You showed the world exactly what discrimination looks like. Now I'm going to use that opportunity to fix a broken system." Sarah wiped her eyes. "Mr. Johnson, why are you being so nice to us? We were horrible to you." David thought about that for a moment. "Ms. White, I've been flying for 30 years. I've been discriminated against dozens of times. Usually nothing happens. The crew apologizes quietly and everything goes back to normal." He paused. But this time was different. This time 100,000 people watched it happen. This time I have the power to do something about it. The plane started moving toward the runway. Finally ready for takeoff, 45 minutes late. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tom announced over the intercom, his voice shaky, We apologize for the delay. We'll be airborne in just a few minutes. As the plane lifted off, David made one more call. Hello, NAACP. This is David Johnson from Atlantic Airways. I have a proposition for you. Emma's stream hit 125,000 viewers. The story was spreading across every social media platform. Yes, airline discrimination was trending worldwide. But the real change was just beginning. David opened his laptop and started typing. A new company policy. Every Atlantic Airways employee would go through 40 hours of bias training. Any employee who discriminated against passengers would be immediately fired, no exceptions. But that wasn't enough. He kept typing. A $50 million fund for discrimination prevention, partnerships with civil rights groups, body cameras for all crew members, third-party investigators to review complaints. Tom watched him work. Sir, you're really going to spend $50 million because of what happened today? David looked up from his laptop. Captain Miller, discrimination costs my industry millions of dollars every year in lawsuits, bad publicity, and lost customers. $50 million to prevent it is cheap. He went back to typing. Besides, it's not just about money. It's about doing the right thing. Sarah leaned forward. Mr. Johnson, can I ask you something personal? He nodded. How do you stay so calm? If someone treated me like that, I'd be screaming. David closed his laptop and looked at her. Ms. White, anger doesn't change systems. Strategic action does. Getting mad would make me feel better for 5 minutes, but what I'm doing now will make flying safer for millions of people. Emma held up her phone. Mr. Johnson, my viewers want to know. What happens next? What happens next, Emma, is that we prove change is possible. 3 months later, David Johnson stood in front of 500 airline employees at the Miami Convention Center. Tom Miller and Sarah White sat in the front row, both wearing name tags that said, Training Instructors. Ladies and gentlemen, David began, I want to tell you about the day my life changed, the day I was discriminated against on my own airline. The room was dead quiet. Captain Miller and Flight Attendant White are here today to share their story with you, not because I want to embarrass them, but because they chose to turn their mistake into a teaching moment. Tom stood up, his hands shaking slightly. 3 months ago, I saw a black man in first class and assumed he didn't belong there. I didn't check records, I didn't ask questions, I just saw his skin color and made assumptions. His voice got stronger as he continued. I called security. I tried to have him removed. I humiliated him in front of 147 passengers and 100,000 live stream viewers. Sarah stood up next to him. I was even worse. I whispered to the captain that this passenger didn't belong because of how he looked. I reinforced his bias with my own prejudice. She wiped away a tear. We found out later that the man we tried to remove was David Johnson, CEO of Atlantic Airways, our boss's boss's boss. A few people in the audience gasped. Even though they knew the story, hearing it directly was powerful. But here's the thing, Tom continued. Mr. Johnson could have fired us. He could have sued us. He could have destroyed our lives. Instead, Sarah said, he gave us a chance to make it right. David stepped forward. Tom and Sarah have spent the past 3 months traveling to every airport in America. They've shared their story with 15,000 airline employees. They've helped us understand how unconscious bias works. He clicked a button, and a slide appeared on the screen. Since we started this program 3 months ago, discrimination complaints across all airlines have dropped by 67%. That's thousands of passengers who were treated with dignity instead of suspicion. The audience applauded. Emma Rodriguez, the teenager who live-streamed the incident, now runs our social media justice project. She trains young people to document discrimination and share it responsibly. Emma stood up in the back of the room and waved. At 17, She was now the youngest corporate consultant in America. The video Emma took has been viewed 10 million times. It's been translated into 12 languages. It's shown in diversity training programs around the world. David clicked to the next slide. But the real success isn't in the numbers, it's in the stories. He read from his phone. Last week, a Muslim family flew from New York to California. The flight attendant noticed other passengers staring at them and whispering. Instead of ignoring it, she made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, everyone on this plane deserves to feel safe and welcome. Thank you for flying with respect." He read another message. A Latino businessman was questioned about his first-class ticket. But this time, another passenger spoke up. She said, "I saw what happened to David Johnson. I won't let it happen again." The crew apologized and treated the man with respect. Story after story, passengers standing up for each other, crew members checking their own bias, an industry slowly changing. Tom raised his hand. "Mr. Johnson, can I say something?" David nodded. 3 months ago, I thought I was a good person who made one mistake. But working with you showed me I'd been making that mistake for years. I just never realized it." He looked out at the audience. "How many of you have made assumptions about passengers based on how they look?" About half the hands in the room went up. Honest answers. "How many of you have stayed quiet when you saw discrimination?" More hands. "How many of you want to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem?" Every hand went up. Sarah stepped forward. "Change isn't easy. It's uncomfortable. It means admitting you've been wrong about things. It means looking at your own behavior honestly." She paused. "But it's worth it, because every passenger deserves to be treated with dignity." David's phone buzzed. A message from the President of the United States. "Ladies and gentlemen, I just received a message from President Wilson. Next month, he's signing the Airline Equality Act into law. It requires bias training for all airline employees and creates federal penalties for discrimination." The room erupted in applause. This law exists because of what happened on that plane, because Emma had the courage to record it, because you all had the courage to change. He looked directly at Tom and Sarah, and because 2 people chose redemption over denial. After the conference, David sat in his office reading emails from around the world. Airlines in Europe were implementing their training programs. Asian countries were creating new anti-discrimination policies. The ripple effects kept spreading. Emma knocked on his door. "Mr. Johnson, I just got off the phone with Netflix. They want to make a documentary about what happened." "What do you think?" he asked. "I think we should do it. But only if Tom and Sarah get to tell their side of the story, too." David smiled. At 17, Emma understood something that took him decades to learn. Real change comes from forgiveness, not revenge. His phone buzzed with a text from Tom Miller. "Mr. Johnson, I just finished training 200 pilots in Chicago. One of them thanked me for preventing him from making the same mistake I made. This is the best job I've ever had." Another text from Sarah. "Training flight attendants in Seattle today. A young woman told me she almost quit the airline industry because of discrimination she witnessed. Now she wants to be part of the solution. Thank you for giving us a second chance." David walked to his window, looking out at the Miami airport. Planes taking off every minute. Millions of passengers traveling safely, treated with dignity because strangers decided to speak up. He opened his laptop and started typing his final report. 6 months ago, I was discriminated against on my own airline. It was recorded, shared, and watched by millions. But this story isn't about what happened to me. It's about what happened because of me. Real change doesn't come from anger or lawsuits. It comes from ordinary people choosing courage over comfort. From teenagers like Emma who record injustice instead of ignoring it. from employees like Tom and Sarah who admit their mistakes and work to fix them. The airline industry is safer today because people chose to act. But this is just the beginning. Discrimination exists everywhere, in schools, workplaces, stores, restaurants. The question isn't whether you'll see it. The question is what you'll do when you do. Will you stay quiet? Will you look away? Or will you be the person who stands up and says, "Not on my watch"? The next David Johnson is out there right now, being judged by their appearance instead of their character. The next Emma Rodriguez is holding a phone, deciding whether to record or stay silent. The next Tom Miller and Sarah White are about to make a choice that will define who they really are. What choice will you make? Change doesn't happen in boardrooms or courtrooms. It happens when you decide that everyone deserves dignity. It happens when you choose justice over comfort. It happens when you realize that the person sitting next to you might just be the most important person you'll ever meet. What injustice will you document today? What assumption will you challenge? What system will you help change? The revolution doesn't need violence. It just needs you to care enough to act. Share this story. Tag 3 friends. Subscribe if you believe in equality. The next flight is boarding. Will you be on it? David hit send and watched the story spread across the internet once again. 1 million views in the first hour. Somewhere out there, another person was finding the courage to speak up. Another system was about to change. Another life was about to get better. All because a CEO, a pilot, a flight attendant, and a teenager proved that ordinary people can create extraordinary change. The plane was boarding. The future was taking off, and everyone was invited to fly.